What's up? What's up? What's happening? I'm your host with the most, Dayon Dunlap. Thank you for joining another episode of Pawd Slama Jama. On this episode, we're going to touch upon, of course, the football season. Coach Dana Holgorsen, his latest comments leading into the West Virginia game. Also, going to touch on Coach Sampson's interview with Jon Rothstein, previewing this upcoming basketball season. And we have a special guest from you all, former Houston Cougar standout receiver Steven Dunbar, now playing professionally in the CFL, the Canadian Football League, is going to join us on the show later. Let's get right into it.
Got high standards, high goals, and we know what it takes to get there.
I want to be unguardable, if I'm honest.
Coaches coach, players play. And that's a great place to be in your life, where you can care less what other people think.
Like I said, let's start with the football. Currently 2-3 record, 0-2 in Big 12 play, coming off a lopsided loss against Texas Tech. And if you watched our Let's Race Cougs, our post-game show following, you'll hear our thoughts and kind of go through that again. It was an inconsistency within the entire team. First half, the defense really was non-existent. They didn't really show up, didn't really get any stops. First half, offensive was lights out, gave up 2 touchdowns on special teams, a kick return, then also a block punt, which led to a touchdown. So that's 14 points in the first half, unaccounted for in regards to on special teams. Then fast forward to second half, you guys know how the game turned out. Offense really didn't do anything. Defense was able to get a couple stops, give the offense opportunities to move the ball down the field, in which they was able to move the ball and sustain some drives, just unable to get points. And that brings me into Coach Dana Holgorsen, his weekly press conference, on Monday, in which, of course, he pointed out missed tackles, which has been an issue with Houston throughout this entire season. And he also talked about how the consistency needs to be with the offense and the defense, specifically moving the ball and sustaining drives. And he mentioned penalties and different factors that played into the loss. And so, he was very honest with his critique of the game. I don't really have any disagreements with what he said, but looking kind of foreseeing the rest of the season, and we're recording this on Wednesday, November 11th, the day before they play West Virginia, his former team that he coaches, which is surprisingly 3-1 on the season. And I don't think really no one expecting that. And so Houston's going to play them tomorrow in Houston, where they're going to be wearing their blackout jersey. And so my expectations for that game is kind of foreseeing Houston. They're coming off a bye week. They had 10 days of rest. And so I don't think the short week, quote unquote short week, will be an issue. I like Coach Danielson gave credit to the Big 12, how they have given the team an extra 10 days to prepare, knowing they're going to play on this Thursday. So shout out to the Big 12 for doing that. But I think starting with offense, I think Donovan Smith has getting more comfortable in his system and getting more not only comfortable in the system, like I just said, I think he's getting more confident in the system. I think he's able to know the offense, which allows him just to react and play without thinking. And we saw a coming out party from the receivers. We've all, from all what I've seen, were very high on the receiving core coming into this season. And for some reason, it's been a bit of inconsistent play for some of them, primarily their number one receiver, Matthew Golden, who I know hold himself to a high standard. So I'm going to hold him to that high standard, which I believe he holds himself. And he had a few drops early in the season, with which that really didn't plague him in Texas Tech. Sam Brown, who I believe will be an NFL receiver, has been the one consistent receiver throughout the entire year. He finally got into the end zone against Texas Tech, had a big game as well. And so I think against West Virginia, I expect the passing game to resume what we saw in that first half, but can they sustain that without a full 4 quarters? I think they have to get the run game going. People were asking about Parker Jenkins. Where did he go in that second half? Why didn't he get that many touches? And Coach Dana Holgorsen's response was they're a running back by committee, and they didn't really want to overload his work duty. But he also said that they have a system and a plan in place, and regardless of going into the game. And so they had a number of snaps that they wanted Parker Jenkins to play. And I think we will see his role continue to grow even more. Of course, he's a starting running back, and he's been electric. So shout out to Parker Jenkins. I really love his vision, his patience. He seems to always make the first man miss, but I'm really waiting on him to have that long breakout touchdown run because everyone raves about his speed. And so I think Parker Jenkins at home, of course, had a breakout game against Sam Houston State. We kind of put him on the map, 3 touchdowns, over 100 yards. But I want to see it in the Big 12. And I think this will be the game that we see it against West Virginia, which they're not the traditional West Virginia that we're used to when you think of Dana Holgorsen, Geno Smith, Tavon Austin, and all those guys. They actually like a slow it down game, want to make it a kind of a quote-unquote street fight. They want to control the time of possession. They want to run the football, and they want to tackle and force you to execute long drives. So that's what I'm going to be watching from Houston. Can they sustain these drives, not hurt themselves with holding penalties and different penalties to put them behind the chains and put them in obvious passing situations? So I think if they can do that, run the football, have a balanced offensive attack, then I think I like their chances. I think Donovan Smith, I want to see him a little bit more in the run game early in the downs because he easily can fall forward for 3 or 4 yards. It seems easy to me, but it's not easy. So I say that easy with air quotations because his stature and his ability to run over or fall forward. And so I think the offense is going to well, but defense is where, of course, my eyes is going to be. I think they've played well enough, specifically in these 2 Big 12 games, to win against TCU. They played well enough to win. They gave the offense turnovers in which they didn't convert into points. So against Texas Tech, they gave stops and in which gave the offense time to move the ball or a chance to dip into that lead and potentially tie the score. And so it's just about playing complementary football. When the offense is doing well, the defense needs to be doing just as well and getting stops to get the ball back into the offense. And when the offense is kind of sputtering a bit, the defense needs to maybe get a turnover like they have, and the offense must convert. So I think they must play complementary football. But the number one thing that I've noticed is the culture isn't there. People are showing, you see videos on Twitter in which back on the sideline in the Herman days, everyone on the sideline is jumping up and they're all getting hyped and the energy is there. So I think that's one thing that needs to be reestablished is an energy and a culture in regards to, I don't know how to describe it, but I think that culture needs to be reset I think the players have that mindset in regards to we're going to put Houston on the map for the city. You see a lot of Houston kids staying home in the city, but overall from top to bottom, starting with the head coach, I don't really see a good culture in place. And I'll be sure to pick the brain of Steven Dunbar, who played under 3 head coaches, one of them being Tom Herman, and he was under those teams that had success and get his mind frame on that. And so I'm excited about that. And so I'm excited for the game tomorrow. I can't wait. Be sure to comment and give us your thoughts and your take. Continuing on here on Pawd Slama Jama, of course, I'm Dayon Dunlap. Shout out to my co-host, Andy Yanez, who's changed his profession, is now a teacher and a coach now. And so his availability during the week is limited, but he's definitely still part of the Pawd Slama Jama family. And so shout out to Andy. Hope all is well with your new position in school, of course. But Coach Sampson went on an interview with Jon Rothstein, and he talked a lot about this season. A few things that stood out to me as I watched their trip overseas. Those games are on YouTube if you haven't had a chance. So mentioning YouTube, be sure you follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Pawd Slama Jama, as shown on the screen, and follow our Twitter and TikTok and social media as well. But one thing he mentioned is this team is one of the deepest teams in regards to guards that they've had. And I think he said that we should expect more 4-guard sets this year. And we saw a lot of that when I watched the games overseas. And watching them, I feel like Coach Sampson, I shouldn't say I know, I feel like Coach Sampson was playing with different lineups to see what lineups work well together. And that's what you do in those exhibition games. And so you see a lot of 4 sets. And one player that he mentioned is kind of his Swiss Army knife, can play pretty much any guard position outside of point guard. He can play the 2 and the 3 and the 4. Is Terrence Arsenal. That's one of the players he mentioned who he expects that could take that next step. I think he would be given every opportunity to do so. So in that 4-guard lineup, I think some of the times it'll be J1 in there, it'll be JVA in there, or some of the young guys with JoJo Tugler and so forth. And so I think the guards will be a strength of Houston. I think this will be a much better 3-point shooting team. And I expect Jamal Shead to be even more of a facilitator. I think last time, at times in which I credited him for doing this, because he does a really good job of picking his spots when to be aggressive to score versus when to be aggressive to play make. Although I think on last year's teams, sometimes he could have been more of a facilitator to get his guys going even more. But he does a great job of picking his spots. And I think this year, when you have the likes of starting with LJ Cryer, who almost shot 50% from 3, is one of the best 3-point shooters in the country, who has familiarity playing in the Big 12, has a national title at Baylor, so he knows what it takes to win. I think those two will be like Jamal and Marcus was in regards to in that tandem in fast break. Oftentimes you'll see Jamal push the pace and kind of swing that pass to 3 to Marcus Sasson. I think LJ Cryer will be in that role and will excel in that role. But one thing that he said that he wanted to work on and what drew him to Houston was having the ability and the opportunity to play on the ball and work on his playmaking to prove that he can not only be a off ball and shoot the ball really well, but he can kind of lead the team similar to a Marcus Sasson. He's an undersized guard. What people would consider an undersized guard, but I think he can not only play on the ball and as well as off the ball. So I'll be looking for that as well. And Damian Dunn, transfer from Temple, in which he was obviously one of the top 2 players, him with Battle, who is now in Arkansas, but both of those guys eventually came off the bench last year. So that was something interesting to me. That tells me that he's not only a selfless player, he will do whatever it takes for his team to win. But within that, he's a player that can get you 30 points. He can score. He can play on the ball. He can facilitate. And he's an outstanding free throw shooter, and he has a great knack for getting to the free throw line. So I think his experience and his skill set will really bode well with LJ Cryer and Jamal Shead and within this Houston systems. Really like a pro system, a lot of pick and roll action, some dribble handoff, ghost action will allow him to get in the middle of the floor and create for himself or his teammates. And so I'm excited to see what the guards will be. I'm continuing with guards. One guard that I've yet to mention is now I think we consider him a sniper. I think this year he will prove he will be a sniper. We don't want to give him that label just yet, but I think his consistency with the work that I believe he put in is Emmanuel Sharp. I think he's another player who you can expect to have that next jump coming into this season. I think he won't surprise anyone. He'll be on the scouting report for teams to run him off the line, in which he will have to prove that he now has that ability to score off the bounce, whether it be 1 or 2 dribble pull up or getting all the way inside and finishing. And I think that's the next step for him, and also being consistently defensively. I mean, of course, for Coach Sampson, you're going to have to give max effort to be on the floor, but I think not being a defensive liability and being able to compete on the defensive end and get steals and get stops, it will see his role in the spot growing more. We know he'd be able to be a shooter. Kind of already talked about Terrence, but another player who Coach Sampson said that Houston fans will love and who he think will have a chance to be a great Cougar is JoJo Tugler, the freshman out of Cypress Falls in the Houston area, 6'7", 230 pounds, and his athletic ability really just jumps off the chart to me when I watch him play. Of course, he's a tenacious rebound. He's going to go after every rebound, but his basketball IQ and the way he's able to read pick and rolls, whether it be to slash, whether it be to catching it in the mid-post area, and ability to kind of hit his floater or get to his hook game. So he has ability, and he's a high flyer. His athleticism really will jump off the charts when Houston fans continue to see him play. I think he's going to have a big role. We'll see a lot of lineups with him on the floor with the Statesman, the oldest player on the team. Of course, that is none other than the captain, Jon Roberts. We've seen his game grow year in and year out, from being more consistent last year to being a starter and being counted on to be an offensive piece. He's done that. Shows that he can be a low post threat. Of course, he can score with his left hand. I think for me, when I watch him this year, I want to see how we always see him in practice and clips of him in practice shooting his mid-range jumper and even stretching out to shooting some threes. And one thing that Coach Sampson and staff does is they identify not only what the next level requires in your position, but they give you the time and to work on those skill sets. And if you show it that you can do that in practice, they'll allow you to prove it in the game. And so he has 3 or 4 years of working on his jumper in practice. And I expect for him to unleash that in games this year, whether it be in the mid-range to potentially shooting a few corner 3-point shots if the opportunity presents itself. So I think he's going to have a stellar year. I think this year he will average a double-double. It came close last year, but I think this year he can really, really average a double-double, 10 points to 10-plus rebounds. I think he has that skill set. So I'm excited. Coach Sampson also mentioned how in the Big 12, in years past, in the American, they probably did win a few games with maybe their B game or their C game. But he said this year in the Big 12, that's no longer. And he said, we welcome that. We welcome that challenge. We're not ducking. He didn't say this. These are my words. We're not ducking no smoke. We're not ducking any competition. We're going to line up, tie our shoes up. We're going to come to play. And so I'm excited to see that. He said the Houston fans should expect more conference losses this year. And within that, I mean, of course, you're going to in the best basketball conference in America. So with his knowledge and his experience being in that conference, I expect Houston to not only compete in the Big 12 to win, but have a few losses in the conference play, in which no team in the Big 12, of course, is going to go undefeated. And so I'm excited to see that. But another player who really, really stood out to me in those overseas trips that came back, and Coach Sampson really had a lot to rave about, that's Malik Wilson. Broke his, I believe his wrist or his hand, who he said, so he's out for a few weeks. But in his time, he's really, really an elite defender. Reminds me of Dejan Jarreau, who won Defensive Player of the Year in American his last year. I think he has that ability to be that type of impact player. He can really do it all on the floor, not only with his defense, but he can finish inside. He can control. He can push the pace of the game with Jamal Shead or whomever needs to break. He can run the offense, just like the other guards that I mentioned, LJ Cryer and Damian Dunn. But he really is that piece that's X factor. I think he's going to be the X factor for Houston this season. I think a lot of teams will come into the season will be keeping an eye on him. You hear other names, maybe like Terrence Arsenault and the Damian Dunns and LJ Cryer and Jamal Shead and those guys. But I think Malik Wilson, before it's all said and done, could probably win either Sixth Man of the Year or Newcomer of the Year in the Big 12. I'm expecting a big year from him, and so I'm excited. But right now, our guest is here to join us, former Houston Cougar wide receiver, standout Steven Dunbar, now professionally playing in the CFL, has stints in the NFL as well. And so let's welcome Steven Dunbar to the show. As requested, I told you we have our special guest today, former Houston standout star receiver Steven Dunbar, professional receiver for the CFL. Just finished up your second season in the CFL, correct?
Yeah, it's almost over. We probably got 2 more weeks left, but it's coming to an end for sure.
Yeah, well, before we get into some Houston first, just kind of tell us about your journey. Of course, you went undrafted, went for the 49ers, then you had a stint with the Broncos, and now you've been in the CFL now and with your second team now. So kind of tell us about your journey, kind of post-college career.
Yeah, bro, it's been a journey, bro. It's been a lot of ups and downs. So like you said, I signed with San Francisco as a free agent coming out of college. Spent the year up there, mostly on practice squad the whole year. Got cut right as OTAs was about to start. I got released for the second phase of OTAs after the draft. Got released, came back home. Spent some time here, man. Like right as the training camp came back around, I got signed to Denver. Like I was like one of the last guys they signed on the roster. Went through training camp there for about a month. Ended up not making a team. came back to the crib, bro. It was kind of rough from there. That's when they started the XFL league. That's the first go round. I entered that draft and got drafted to the Dallas team. Then I came to Dallas, went to the little rookie mini camp or the little team mini camp or whatever. Ended up tearing my PCL, and then they put me on IR, sent me back to New Orleans. I was out there training and just kind of just didn't know what was gonna happen, bro. Just collecting the checks and then figuring out what was gonna happen. This is around the time COVID kind of was starting to become a thing, and then shit, COVID canceled that season. So shit, I was back, free agent, kind of rehabbing, didn't know what was gonna happen. And I had been talking to Hamilton Tiger Cats when I got released from Hamilton, and I actually was supposed to go up there and sign before I signed in Denver, but I ended up getting an opportunity. And so shit, we ended up waiting it out, getting signed to Denver. When I got cut from there, I was like, shit, the XFL not working. I'm like, man, at the time I didn't know nothing about Canada at all. Like it was like I just knew it was up there, bro. I heard about Toronto and that was about it. So I ended up signing up there, bro. The wide receiver coaches gave me a crash course on like CFL football and shit like that, and we ended up signing there. COVID came around, season got canceled, man. So now it's like shit. I'm back in. Not at this time. I'm back in Houston because I had started back training to get ready for the season. So I just continued to train because they said they was kind of had us in the up in the air if we was gonna play or not. And then once May came around, like maybe like 2 weeks or so after we were supposed to report, they canceled the season. So that football season went by. Then 2021 ended up getting an opportunity to play my first year in Hamilton. So had a solid little season. And then ended up signing a new deal the next year. So it was an all-star the following year in 22. And then this year I signed a new 2-year deal up here in Edmonton, Alberta. So I'm with the Edmonton Elks now on a 2-year deal. I was putting together a decent season. I ended up fracturing some cartilage in my ribs, so I'm pretty much done for the season this season. But man, it's been a journey, bro. It's been its ups and downs, and a lot still ahead for me. But I'm still doing it, bro. So I can't complain
Definitely
too much.
tapped in when you played against your former team, the Hammercats. You had 2 tugs. How you get busy? How was that to go against your old squad and had a success that you had?
Yeah, that was dope, bro. It was dope. I mean, obviously, you always go back to the old team. Things ain't work out, free agency, whatever. You get to go against them and have a good game, so that's always good. But I got a lot of love for Hamilton, man. The city, the organization. Like I said, bro, my story was kind of crazy. So shit, they gave me opportunity when I felt like it was damn near over with for me. So.
Well, I know we won't have you for too much longer. So let's get right into it. Houston right now is 2-3 in the Big 12, 0-2 overall in the 2-3 overall, 0-2 in the Big 12. And so it's a lot of talk right now about Dana Holgorsen and him overall as a coach. But one thing in particular I want to pick your brain about, because you had the opportunity to play in the American, but not only that, you was on the highlight of Houston days, what they had a recent when you guys went to the Sugar Bowl and beat Florida State?
Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl.
The Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl beat Florida State. That following next year, you're the number one receiver against OU. You ball out that entire year. And so you have that experience playing against D1 talent while being in the American. So from your perspective, what's the talent discrepancy? What's it like when you're in the American playing against those teams versus when you're playing against the Florida States, the OUs of the world?
Well, I mean, those bigger programs, they have a lot of resources to build a program up. You know what I'm saying? So it's obviously when you make a jump from conferences like that, it takes time, man. So you gotta, your recruiting classes gotta kind of catch up. You gotta kind of get into a place where you can start competing with those guys, not just on the field. But you gotta compete with, on a lot of different aspects for it. Just, a lot of money going through those schools that U of H didn't have access to until a couple of years ago. You know what I'm saying? So U of H has been a consistently growing program, but like I said, it's still for you to take that next step into, like you said, into a bigger conference. You know what I'm saying? It takes a couple of years to kind of get your feet under you and figure out what it's like.
But on the teams that you played on, and when you guys had success against those programs, and with Houston being where it was at that time, from the talent that was on the team and the talent that you had, was the talent level discrepancy in regards when you kind of compare it to those teams even then into now? Because when I watch the games, even this year, I think Houston has the talent. It's just from different situations, whether it be coaching, whether it be complementary football, different things to why they haven't won those games. But specifically from the talent, does Houston have the talent? Y'all had it then because y'all won those games, but even from then to now, what's the talent? Is it a talent level discrepancy? I know depth is a huge thing that they talk about, but from the 11 on the field, is talent, or what's the deal with that?
I mean, talent is great. I mean, honestly, you need talent to be able to put yourself in position to win games. But ultimately, I think from the games that I watched from this year, and just thinking about back to when I played there, it's just, man, football is like the ultimate team sport, bro. So it's like you need everything to be going in the right direction, whether that be from the support staff, the athletic staff, the weight room, the guys in the locker room, the coaches. It's a lot that goes into it, man. And when we had our run at U of H, man, the culture there was just it was. I would put it up against anybody. You know what I'm saying? I would put it up against any program. We was all on one accord as an organization, as a team. We was all heading in the right direction, and everybody kind of thought the same, moved the same, and wanted to do the same things. And we played hard for each other. Like those was our real brothers. We looked at each other as brothers, and we played hard for each other, whether we hung out off the field or not. And most of us did. You know what I'm saying? Most of us was real friends, like off the field. You know what I'm saying? We hung out, we did everything together pretty much. And it's like, it could be a lot of things, man. So it's like I think of course they got the talent, man. They got a lot of talented guys over there that can play really good football, but it's like you got to bring it all together. You know what I mean? I think that's what might be the issue over there right now is just being able to take those pieces and put them together and get everybody moving in the same direction. You know what I'm saying? Get that culture rolling in the right direction and get people doing the right things on and off the field. You know what I'm saying? Because that stuff will reflect. You know what I'm saying? When y'all start playing, you're like, bro, you're not disciplined in other areas of your life. You can't just expect yourself to just turn it on when you get on the field. They come through in those moments where they need you the most. You know what I'm saying? You gotta practice that on a day in out, day in, day out type of basis. You know what I'm saying? And I think that might be it. That's something that Hogerson gotta kind of bring back to U of H that we kind of built during my time there. Because before we got there, it was the culture wasn't all that great. You know what I'm saying? And that was the biggest thing that we changed, bro. Was just the culture around UH football, man. So like from what I watch and from what I hear, you know what I'm saying, just from my old teammates that hang around the team a lot. Obviously, I'm gonna be up here, and you know what I'm saying, I'm not able to just go stop by the facility or go to the games as much as I want to really get a up close and a up close view of it. But from what I see, just some of the mistakes they're making, some of the things that are going on, and I think it's just got to be a shift in the culture. There's got to be a shift in the culture. Everybody got to be on the same page, on the right thing.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that stands out to me because you see on Twitter and different clips of back in the time that you're referencing, when people on the sideline, everyone is jumping up. You think about Coach Herman, how he set the culture, and how he was able to identify the Houston culture as a city, and identify that and relate to the younger generation and the players and recruit and kind of build that theme of Houston H-Town takeover, in which I think the players are buying into taking over and referencing Houston and bringing Houston back. But like you said, I think it starts up top and identifying and establishing that culture. And like you said, I don't really see that as well. But Houston has been successful at receivers before you, during you, and after you. I mean, the list goes on from you to DeMarcus Ayers to Speedy to Tank to right now, even Matthew Golden, Sam Brown, and Manjack. What are you seeing from the receivers? I think they have a really, really deep receiving core. They had one of the best receiving classes as freshmen. Got a couple 4-stars, and how people rank those stars, but I don't really identify that. But those kids have talent and notoriety in regards to bring in. So what are you saying from the receiving core and the skill position for Houston? It's still top tier level, because I put them up with really anyone.
Yeah, man. Like shit. His story, like it's history, man. Like U of H, like, if you want to play receiver, like that's the place to go. Like a lot of people, want to go to these big name schools. It's like, bro, like Houston been airing the ball out for years. Like it's for years. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, bro, it's like even well before me, they've been doing it, bro. So I definitely like the receiver core, man. They've been making some plays, and they definitely got they got some stuff to them, bro. I like their game. I like some of the plays that they made down the field, and some of those contested catches they've made as well. Like they're making plays. So I'm excited to see them. Like you said, I put them up against anybody.
Yeah, and as Houston, what's your expectations for Houston? Do you think they have the talent to compete? I know there's different layers of what it takes to be a winning program, like you just mentioned, from culture to the buy-in from the day in and day out, and which I would agree they don't have that established. But from your perspective, do you think they have the talent itself to put it all together? They just need the right, whether it be coaching staff or whatever the case may be, like all the things that you mentioned, for those to be in place for them to actually take that next step and be a consistent, good program in the Big 12?
I think so, man. I think first of all, like obviously they've made some good moves in recruiting. They got some, like you said before, they got some guys that are up in recruiting. Also they're in a great place to recruit. You know what I'm saying? Houston is an ideal city for a lot of young dudes, man. A lot of people want to, especially in Texas, man. They why wouldn't you want to live in downtown Houston? You know what I'm saying? But like I said, it's just a matter of like taking that talent and putting it together. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of the next step for them to be able to have longevity and success. You know what I'm saying? As a program, yeah, you might have here a year here, two there that you might do some good things, but if you want to create, some standard success, it's gotta be, you know what I'm saying, like we talked about, it's gotta be that culture. But the talent is there, man. It's always been there. It's always been there since before I got there. People, you know what I'm saying, people kind of got on the bandwagon kind of when we started winning and having our little run. But even before that, bro, the talent was there. I mean, you go back and watch, Case Keenum days, all the way to when G Ward was there, even before G Ward was there, when we was there. You know what I'm saying? It's like the talent is always there. You know what I'm saying? It's just always gotta be. It just haven't never was like spotlighted. You know what I'm saying? So until we got there and we like, oh, they beating OU. Oh, they beating Florida State. So now it's like people started paying attention more. And then we had Herman had made the big splash, and then it was like, a lot of people was paying attention. But the talent is always been there in Houston, man. That's why a lot of coaches love to go there, because it's not like they gotta. Even if you take on a program in Houston, it's not like you coming in there and you working with nothing as a coach. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna walk in Houston and you're gonna have like some guys you didn't even know you had. You're gonna be like, oh, you know what I'm saying? I think that's something that Herman walked into. He was like, you had guys that had already been there. We just needed to, like I said, that culture and just to mold it together and put it, put it together. But the talent is there. I don't think U of H ever have an issue as far as talent. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like that consistency. Obviously, the coaching situation is unique there, bro. It's hard for you, it's hard for Houston to keep a coach. You know what I'm saying? It's like that school where it's like you have 2 or 3 good seasons, they out of there. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's tough for us to get a coach and start, because it's the perfect school. You know what I'm saying, for a coach. It's the perfect school for a coach to seek better opportunity. So it's like it's tough for that. Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's hard for somebody to come in there and you know what I'm saying? Like my 4 years at Houston, I had 3 head coaches, bro. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like if they could just get somebody to go there and stay there for a little while and try to build something, then it'd be a whole different story. So now it's like, okay, not only we getting recruits, but you know what I'm saying, the guys who there, they know what to expect now. They know the offense. They know the people that they working with on a day-to-day basis. Their coach is not changing. They know the expectation. So it's got to be that type of element eventually at U of H, man. If we want to take that next step, I mean, we in a bigger conference now, but it can't be that. It can't be that kind of stepping stone school that we gonna, like you said, man, try to build something that's long
Sustainable.
lasting, sustainable. Facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
I mean, before I let you go, I know we're limited on time, but one of my biggest, I don't want to say gripes, and one thing that I noticed being a Houston fan, and I want your perspective as a former player. If the team isn't winning, fans ain't showing up. But if you winning, then the fans will show up. But from a player's perspective, what's it like playing in the TDECU Stadium when some fans may show up, but then when you got big games, they actually show up and they support? So, like from a player's perspective, what's how you guys view the Houston kind of fan base in the crowd?
Man, honestly, as a player, you really just gotta kind of keep it in house. Like, you can't even really worry about. I mean, of course, you appreciate the fans that come out and support you, and obviously, you notice the fact that when we losing, stands a little slim. Mm-hmm. And obviously, when we winning, not a whole Houston in there. They dropping people out the sky.
Yeah.
All the rappers there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just how. That's that type of city. You know what I'm saying? And that's just Houston in a nutshell. But I think as a team, it's got to be that locker room. It's got to be that building, and we got to say, okay, man. Regardless of who show up and all that, it's all about. It's about us. You know what I'm saying? It's about the people who come in, put the work in, and the people who in here every day. Putting the time in to become, what we want to be. So it's just like, I know that was our culture when we got to U of H. We already knew that how it worked. You know what I'm saying? For as the fans, and we knew how this football stuff worked when it comes to, when you winning, it's all great, and when you losing, you suck. You know what I'm saying? That's just the life we signed up for. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, like you said, bro, it's just gotta be. It's once you do, it's almost like, man, you take care, you take care of what you're supposed to. All the other stuff will fall in place, man. The fans gonna pull up, you know what I'm saying? Everybody gonna be, showing love to you. People gonna be coming in the locker room, performing songs, and you know what I'm saying. It's gonna be that. I mean, we showed Houston that, you know what I'm saying. From I mean, you go back and see some of the games we had there, and the TDECU Stadium where it was sold out, packed to capacity. You know what I'm saying? And it was a epic, you know what I'm saying. Environment. It can be that. You know what I'm saying? That stadium is perfect amount of seats. The way it kind of overlooks everything is perfect. Like it's a good place, bro. And like the student section is always popping, man. Especially when we winning. So it's like I said, man, they just gotta like I said, win. That's all you gotta do. If you do that, you ain't even gotta worry about nothing else.
Well, man, we appreciate you joining. What's your thoughts on them powder blue Houston them jerseys? I think that needs to be Houston needs to make that powder blue their alternate color.
Right.
Like what?
Nah, them joints is crazy. Them joints is crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I seen them. I was like, dang, they gonna do something like that when I'm right there. Nah, but yeah, them crazy. We had, it's crazy. U of H always had a blue in it. People just didn't know it. So it's a navy blue.
It's a navy blue.
It's a navy blue, but I like the Oilers baby blue. It's way more. Like, I think you could do more with that blue than that navy blue, because that navy blue can get kind of lost in the sauce a little bit, because it's just like, is it black? Is it blue?
Right.
But that Oilers unit, that was crazy. I ain't gonna lie, they gotta bring that one back.
For sure, man. Well, I appreciate, of course, having your time. Tell all our fans where they can find you at, how they can support you, and because cool fans, once you're a Coug for life. They'll support you. Tell them where they can find you and where they can support you at. Yeah,
my Instagram tag is that's Hercules. I think I got underscores in there somewhere, but you can just type my name in, Steven Dunbar, all the socials and stuff. They should pop up.
Well, most definitely appreciate you having me. Nubus. No, he not only my brother, my frat brother, my friend. So I appreciate you taking the time out your busy day to join me on the show. Appreciate it, Noob.
No doubt, bro. Anytime, man. Appreciate you having me.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, as we continue on to the show, again, special thanks to former Houston receiver Steven Dunbar for joining us on the show. But let's continue on to the talk. I mean, like he said, there's a lot of key points to kind of break down what he said. One of the few things that stood out to me was, number one, culture. And I know that's prevalent with the Houston men's basketball team, but it's just as important with the football team from all the way from top to bottom. And for me personally, I don't see a consistency in holding himself accountable from the top. Starts with the head coach. Now, does that trickle down to the players and et cetera, et cetera? But although, like Dunbar said, once you have that culture in place, you have a consistency and you have players with a consistent mindset to be good men off the field and consistent off the field, and then all that will translate on the field, especially in those critical moments. I think Houston can have success. He definitely said that Houston has the talent, no question, year in, year out, going back to years. It's just about developing that talent, putting all the other factors in place so Houston can be successful. And so, again, thank Dunbar for joining us. Well, that's it for this episode of Pawd Slama Jama. Thank you all for joining me. I'm Dayon Dunlap, of course, and you cannot end any episode without saying go Cougs. So be sure to follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's Pawd Slama Jama. Like it shows on the screen. Be sure to follow us on Twitter as well.